A new interactive feature, which was released yesterday on the Wheel of Time Amazon Prime page, has revealed a huge amount of information regarding this first season of the show. We now have the location of where Tom is in the first season, but not only that, it's also revealed new cities that we will be visiting. So, without further ado, I'm going to be going over all of this new information that has come through the release of this interactive feature. So let's start with one of the more important pieces of information, and that is the location of where Tom is in Season 1. Now, this is both a reveal of his location, but also a new place we will be visiting in the first season, or at least the name of a place we had previously seen. So this place is now called Breen's Spring. Now, interestingly enough, for people in other countries, when they've translated their local language into English, the translation has come out as Baerlon, so it's quite interesting to see that. So we could necessarily be thinking of it as Baerlon. Now, this is where Tom will be situated in Season 1 when we first get his reveal or his introduction to the show. There's a particular reason why this has been confirmed, and it comes thanks to the photo that they used to showcase the place we will be visiting. Now, as you can see here, we get a very nice look at the village or small town that is located very near to a mountainside. Now, what you have to take notice of within this photo is a particular person towards the front of the image and to the right. It's this man here with a stick in his hand and a white beard. Now, this is very relevant and extremely important that they had him in this photo. If we go back to the reveal on, what was it? Tom's clip that we first saw Tom in the inn when he's with his guitar, we see a man to the right of him. That is this man in the new photo that was revealed in the interactive map. So this obviously confirms the location of where Tom will be in Season 1. Now, as far as how can we say this, or how can I say this, as far as how this is going to play out and the reasoning behind his location being here and why he wasn't with, Lan and Moraine when they first traveled to the Two Rivers as he is in the book, it's hard to say. It could just be they wanted to have a new introduction of a character later on in the show, and they just, decided this location would be a nice candidate for that. So that was a very interesting piece of information that has come through this interactive feature. But before we go any further, if you are new and you haven't subscribed, please consider hitting the button down below and turning on notifications, because I may potentially have some exclusive scoops towards the beginning of the middle of November, just before the series is released to the public, that you may want to be around for and to hear. Anyway, let's get on with the rest of the video. Secondly, what I want to focus in on is this photo right here, which is brand new to us all, of the gang all on horseback traveling through the wilderness. Now, what I want you all to take note of is further towards the rear of this group, you will notice that Moraine is slumped over on one of the horses, with Perrin now having to, carry her and make sure she is secure and comfortable. Now, this was obviously a very interesting new photo for us all to be given and to speculate on what is going on within this scene. So one of the theories around what this photo is showing us, I believe, could be it's the run up to Shadar Ligoth. And there's a reason I say that. Number one, it's dark, and if my memory serves me correctly, in the books, when they're being pursued by the Trollocs and Fade, it's becoming very dark in the scene and towards the nighttime. And then we get obviously the scene where Moraine starts channeling the One Power and bringing up the earth to keep the Trollocs away from the party. Now, obviously, this brings with her, this carries with it a huge amount of exhaustion that Moraine undertook with the strenuous amount of the One Power she was channeling in these scenes. And so it could be very simply the case of she's exhausted from this, and so Lan has given Moraine to Perrin to protect and to put on his horse and to help steer her to the safety of Shadar Logoth, or the relative safety of Shadar Logoth, I should say, while Lan leads the group there. I think that would be quite a plausible approach to what they could potentially be doing with this scene and what this shot is of. But what about you guys? Do you have a different take on this photo? Do you believe it's from a different part of the first season and Moraine maybe is a little bit more in danger than I perceive? I'd love to know your thoughts. So another very interesting location that we will be going to in the first season is that of Tyr. Now, when I first saw this, I was shocked at seeing that this was a location we'll be visiting. But when I've had a bit of time to digest it, I started to remember some of the casting and what we will be seeing in the first season that we already know. And that is, of course, a young Siuan Sanche. Now, we know this for a fact because they've already, cast a actress to play the role. And so it makes perfect sense that they would be obviously having to film scenes of a young Siuan Sanche in Tyr, because as we know, she started off in very humble beginnings when she was born into a fisherman's family in Tyr. And so that is the reason why we will be visiting Tyr in the first season. Now also, interestingly enough, in this photo that they showcased in this interactive feature, you will be able to spot a hut. Now this goes quite a way back in time to maybe a year or so ago. This now wraps up and confirms what I believe to be the case of why we will be going to Tyr. Now this hut comes thanks to Geeky Eri, who done some fabulous work in investigating and finding all these interesting pieces of information which are now taking shape thanks to everything that's happened in the last couple of years. So yeah, how long or how much screen time we'll be getting of a young Siuan Sanche is very hard to tell, but we do know for a fact we will be seeing some scenes of her as a young girl. And so that's going to be interesting to see what they show and just how much of her we'll be seeing. Up next is another interesting shot, and that is of Tarvaron with Dragonmount in the background. Now, as you can see, there are two people at the very bottom of the photo. One has a bow and arrow, and they are both very much cloaked and indistinguishable. And so it's very hard to make any guesses or assumptions on who these two people might be and kind of the scenes that are going along with them. So yeah, I can't think off the top of my head of any particular person or people these two may be, but maybe you guys do. Let me know in the comments below if you have a idea of what it could be that is going on in this scene. Moving away from that, we have some very interesting character bios of the main cast. I'm going to read them out to you now, because some of what is being written about each of these individuals is quite interesting, and there's a few changes in their characters, but not only that, certain moments that happen in the books are happening a lot earlier on, and there's some changes as well within the story. Some of those I'm quite happy with, and I think it will add a level of intriguingness for us all, while some are a little bit, I understand why they're doing it, but then I also don't understand why they're doing it, if that makes sense. So let's begin with Egwene. Who is the Dragon Reborn? Now that to me straight away is very interesting in of itself. The fact they've put in there, who is the Dragon Reborn, in the character bio of Egwene says a lot. It straight away tells me she is a possible candidate in this series to be the Dragon Reborn. And so this is a new addition. As we all know, she wasn't ever in the series at any point thought to be the Dragon Reborn. So yeah, let me read the character bio. The innkeeper's daughter, Egwene is wise beyond her years. She's determined, steadfast, and driven by logic. She's promised to marry Rand, but others see her potential. The town wisdom wishes to join her, and the arrival of an Aes Sedai who wants to take her from the Two Rivers further complicates her once simple life. She's quickly realizing she could be more important than anyone ever imagined. So yeah, very interesting character bio. I think the fact that they mentioned she's promised to marry Rand is another bit of confirmation that they're going to be heavily involving these two as much more of a couple than they were in the books. I think we're going to get a huge amount of an expanded portion of that from the books in this series. Not only that, of course, I can't once again not mention the fact that the mention of the Aes Sedai wanting to take her away from the Two Rivers. That's nothing new, but it is, of course, speaking of Moraine. And now when you include that in the Dragon Reborn part of this character bio, it's starting to make a little bit more sense to the fact that we're going to be seeing Egwene as a possible Dragon Reborn candidate. And that also can be confirmed from the scenes that I saw at the London MCM last Friday, because when Moraine mentions the dragon in the last scene that I saw, the camera has quick shots of every single character that Moraine wanted to take with her away from the Two Rivers, and that included Egwene as well. So I think there's a little bit more confirmation of what is going to be changed within this show. So moving away from that, we come to Moraine next. Okay, so funnily enough, it's going to say by the looks of it who is the Dragon Reborn in anything. So that kind of nullifies what I've just spoken about a little bit, but not much because of what I've seen and heard from that scene that I've just mentioned. But anyway, let's carry on with Moraine's bio. Moraine has come to the Two Rivers in search of the one who will save or destroy the world. A mysterious and powerful Aes Sedai capable of channeling the One Power. Her arrival brings with it concern and threats of chaos. She claims to seek the prophesied Dragon Reborn, but for what purpose? Aes Sedai may never speak that which is not true, but the truth one tells you is not always the truth you may think. Okay, so we're getting into that sneaky Aes Sedai dialogue and the way they word the truth. And I think that's interesting to see. That's already something that's going to be at play. And this obviously is a hearken to the oath rod and them not being able to lie. But you can lie in a sense, as we all know, if you're not speaking the truth correctly, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't. But you guys know what I'm getting at there. Not an awful lot of different sort of plot points or anything to be taken from this. As we know, she's here to see who the Dragon Reborn is and take them away. And because she doesn't know which of the four are the Dragon Reborn, she has decided she needs to take all four of these young adults with her to the safety of Tarvaron. Right, up next, who do we have? We have Perrin. Don't let the physique from long days working a forge fool you. Perrin is a gentle giant. To those closest to him, he's a man of strength and stability who approaches every decision with thoughtful consideration. Despite his kind and gentle nature, his physical strength cannot be denied. Is this a reflection of some deeper power? Perrin fears that, one way or the other, circumstances may reveal the answer. So, this is obviously quite telling in what this bio is talking about. As we all know, Perrin is a wolf brother, as he first discovers in the Eye of the World when he meets Elias and Hopper. Now, obviously, as we know, and from what we've seen in the teaser trailer in particular, Perrin will at some point meet a wolf, which we presume to be Hopper. Now, we have not seen anything of Elias, let alone any mention of a casting of him. So, There might be the issue of having Elias non-existent in this first season, but we do know for the fact that there will be a wolf, and there's no doubt to me Perrin will start to experience the changes in himself with the connections that he will have to the wolves that he will go on to meet in the season and in subsequent seasons. The mention of him being a very strong but also gentle giant is one that I love. I've always loved the character of Perrin. I always gravitated towards him, especially my first read through, because there's a lot of similarities between me and him that, I found on my first read through. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what is brought with Perrin in this first season and how everything pans out with him. Up next, we have Rand. Few things are more important to Rand than his family or friends. He is impossibly stubborn, impulsively driven by his love and compassion for others, especially Egwene. They're once again talking about this relationship. It's going to be a full-on romance from what I can tell. When Moraine arrives in the Two Rivers, he pays little mind. Perhaps there is power within him. Perhaps there is power within him or one of his friends, but his only concern is protecting those he loves at any cost. And he will have to do that sooner or later. Yeah, once again, as I just mentioned, they're focusing heavily when it comes to the character bios of Rand and Egwene each other. So it's very obvious that they're going to be focusing in on that relationship a lot more than was in the book series. It's going to be interesting to see just what these changes will bring to these characters and how they develop later in the season and subsequent ones, and just how far they're going to be pushing this relationship and how long it's going to last a relationship. I think that's going to be very interesting to see. Right, so up next is Mat. Mat is always ready with a smart remark and loves to make people laugh. And yet his mischievous smile and witty retards simply distract from the question constantly burgeoning him: is he a good person, and how would he know? His parents were far from role models, yet he fears himself fated to follow their path. But perhaps if that Aes Sedai is to be trusted, his future may have other things in store. Right, so this is a slightly different kind of Mat we're going to be getting them from reading that bio, if this is anything to go off of. I find it very funny that they say his parents were far from role models. That to me says there's been a bit of a change in Abel Coltham and the rest of the Coltham household. How this is going to affect the show Mat is yet to be known. But I do like that they've mentioned that he's got his smart remarks and loves to make people laugh, which is one of those main traits and characteristics of Mat that we know and love. He's also got his witty retorts. Is it retorts? Retorts. I keep saying retards. Retorts. But yeah, it does seem to be there's going to be a slightly different variation of the Mat we've come to know. Maybe they've thought a little bit further along the road in terms of the series, like say seasons 3, 4 and 5, for when that change occurs that we know Mat undergoes in the books. So that could be one of those possible reasons why they've made these character changes early on in the series. Right, so moving on from Mat, and we now come to Nynaeve. Now, Nynaeve is fierce and assertive, commanding respect as the youngest wisdom the Two Rivers has ever seen. She's brash and unpredictable, but her compulsion to heal is what truly drives her. I wonder if the person that wrote this bio realised what he did there, or they did there. She may be slightly older than the rest of the other 4 from the Two Rivers, but her innate abilities are not to be discounted. Nynaeve despises the Aes Sedai, yet Moraine senses a power within her, one she simply cannot ignore. Wow, so that is quite the bio, I have to say, particularly when seeing the phrase, she despises the Aes Sedai. That says a lot about their relationship and how that's going to unfold in the first season. I really didn't, expect it any other way, except maybe having it even further, heightened in terms of her animosity towards Moraine, because just like as I've said previously on the clips that I saw, they all blame Moraine for the Trolloc attack, and so just knowing Nynaeve and how she is very protective towards who she considers family and just the Turas in general, I can see that being a huge sticking point, even more so than the books, and I think that could be potentially what they're going to try and play up on as well between Moraine and Nynaeve. And of course there is going to be that dynamic between the two where she's going to have to accept some things that are going to happen to her, like she can channel the one power, she's a wilder, and she has a lot to learn. But yeah, should be very interesting to see how that plays out. Right, and then finally we have Lan. Lan is Moraine's warder, a warrior bonded to an Aes Sedai through the one power. Equal parts bodyguard, confidant, and ally, he and Moraine share an unbreakable bond. Driven by duty and honour, his stoic exterior reflects the unwavering loyalty that supersedes his own desires. He would give his life for Moraine and will do what is necessary to find the Dragon Reborn, whatever Moraine's plans may be. That last line it's an interesting one to say the least. And he will do whatever is necessary to find the Dragon Reborn, whatever Moraine's plans may be. What do they mean by that? That to me is an intriguing last sentence to have in this bio. Are they implying something there? Is this being poorly written? I really don't know what to think about that. But for the rest of the bio, it's very much like Lan. We know he's a warrior, we know he's bonded, we know he's very much loyal to his Aes Sedai and Moraine. They've been together for so many years. I feel they wouldn't even need a warder's bond to be able to think and know what each other are thinking at this point in time. That's how strong their relationship and connection is with one another. When it comes to like his duty and honor, superseding his own desires, that's obviously a play on his feelings towards Nynaeve and Nynaeve's feelings towards him. That's obviously going to be something that's going to be playing out in the first season. Just how much we don't know, because we don't know where this story is going and who they're going to be focusing in on throughout that first season. But of course I do expect to see some of this brought to the screen and to life. Like I said, his desires to forget what he wants, I think, will be very much part of his character and something he will try to embed into all the other boys, because he's going to be making them into warriors and into men in a very short space of time because of what happens to them. And so I feel this sense of duty and purposefulness and to be selfless is something he will very much try to hone in on, particularly with Rand, if they stay on course with how he almost becomes a sort of teacher to Rand, especially with the sword forms and teaching the sword forms and all that sort of thing. So yeah, very interesting bios, and should be interesting to see how this plays out now. Right, well everyone, that is the end of the video. Quite long again. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and I hope you've found new things that you possibly did not see and have understandings of before today's video. Please consider hitting a like down below, and of course if you are new around here, hit the subscribe button, because I will be having loads more content in the run up to the release date of the first season. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you all later.